Good evening, everybody. This week's Parsha is Parshas Terumah. V'yikchu li Terumah me'es kol ish asher yidvenu libo va'asu li mikdash b'shachanti b'tocham. A few psukim later. I'd like to start off with a short introduction from the Baal Shem Tov, the words of the Baal Shem Tov, shesha'aluhu al inyan para aduma. He was asked about the mitzvah of para aduma. Hechan hu ramuz lavo mizeh la'avodas Hashem yisbarach tamid. What lesson, what concept can we take from that for always? Because obviously paraduma is a mitzvah that's only going to be applying in special circumstances, la'asid lavo. How are we mekayim? How can we relate to it today? Shekol mitzvos hem nitzchios basechel, af shebefoel hem bezman ubemaaseh mikol makom basechel hem tamid nitzchiyim. There's always a certain concepts in the mitzvah that are eternal and can also be applied for today, for here and now. Ki ha-Torah hu elokuso, ve'elokuso nitzchios. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the mitzvos are elokus, their godliness. Godliness is eternal. Kamo she'omrim kol talmidei habesh bishmo shekol haTorah tzricha lihimatzei tamid b'chol zman b'derech chachma v'seicha. There's always concepts that can be applied to now. Sheyesh l'mod mikol mitzvah remizasa. And so we approach the Parsha this week. Am Yisrael are instructed to build the Mishkan. Question, how do we go about constructing, also today, a sanctuary for the Shekhinah? Another question, and why is the giving of the donations to the Mishkan expressed as v'yikchu li Terumah, to take a donation rather than v'yitnu, rather than to give a donation? So I'll address the second question first. It also comes first in the order of the psukim. Hashem bestows upon us multitudes of gifts, resources, talents, capabilities. We have done nothing to deserve all these blessings that make up our situation. Hashem gives it all to us, and we're given the opportunity to utilize and process these gifts. The fact that we have an abundance of wealth, for example, in itself is essentially meaningless. The Beis Halevi likens wealth to a closed container of sugar in which a fly is trapped. So do we call the fly a well-to-do fly, a great fly, because he's flying around in all that sugar? I mean, how much sugar can his tiny stomach ingest? He's also powerless to do anything else with it, to stash it away for himself, for after all, he's stuck and trapped in this container. So it is with all our material blessings and possessions. Only what we give to tzedakah or use for other mitzvot is what transforms it into acquisitions of eternity. V'yikchu li Terumah, by giving of Terumah, we're acquiring for ourselves the only thing that really remains truly with us. So these parshas that deal with the building of the Mishkan, Terumah, Tetzaveh, Vayakel, Pekudei, come out in the months of Adar and Nisan. It's interesting that this is a time of year. We have 2 Adars this year, so we have some more time. We become occupied with preparing our homes for Pesach. Adar, says the Ma'or Bashemesh, stands for Aleph, Dar. Aleph referring to Hashem, dwells. Dar, dwells. Our homes are a mirror of our inner homes, in which reside our neshamas. It's kind of like your house is a reflection of yourself. I always feel like I recognize the personality of a person when I walk into their house. And just like in a house, there are the more well-traveled parts that we frequent a few times a day and we spend a few hours a day. There are parts which we kind of avoid, we keep closed and out of sight. There are functions in the maintenance of the house that come naturally, and we tackle these tasks enthusiastically, effortlessly, and regularly. And then there are those places which we pack away to the back shelf of the storage room and the hazy recesses of our consciousness for quote-unquote when we get around to it. And the cycle of the year spins. We reach Aleph Dar, time for renewal, time to reinstate the Shekhinah in our homes outwardly and inwardly. V'shachanti b'socham. And why do I say inwardly? As we tackle the nooks and crannies of our homes, we're encouraged to approach all of those dusty, neglected areas of our characters, home of our souls. Adar is actually parallel to Elul. Time for tshuva. This time, not in the Slichos handbook or the Siddur, but besimcha, hands-on. And it is a simcha the joy that empowers us to overcome our hesitations, take the plunge and tackle, metaphorically, the floor behind the washing machine. Likewise, we also have areas, those areas of our functioning, our interpersonal relationships that are kind of marred by our insecurities, our jealousies, our bad habits, tensions, and weak points. Our gut reaction is kind of to avoid and ignore, but comes Adar, and the message is broadcast loudly, V'yikhuli Terumah, to find those neglected points in your person, even the places where there's dust and dirt and even mold. It takes courage, it takes initiative on our part. Just because we have conditioned ourselves up till now to give us all kinds of excuses, and we have our behavior patterns and mindsets, who says that we can't change? I mean, take example from our Chayalim. They fearlessly are moser nefesh. They move forward when they see actions that must be taken. We cannot but be floored and awe-inspired by their example. Adar is a time to reassess our steps, our habits. We activate towards the goal of total house cleaning as we go through our homes preparing for the sanctuary of the Shekhinah, clean of pettiness, judging unfavorably, jealousy, anger, and sparkling with the fresh shine of Limud HaTorah, Chesed, Tefillah, Mitzvos, and Masim Tovim. And on the topic of house cleaning, what about our windows? Some of the very industrious among us also get to this job. I don't know if I'm included in that set of people. The Mishkan had no windows, but what about the Beis HaMikdash? Here, if we turn to the Haftorah, which is Sefer Melachim Aleph, Perek Hey, and also the beginning of Perek Vav, we find that Shlomo did build windows in the Beis HaMikdash. Vayas labayis chalone shkufim atumim. Translate, modern Hebrew, he made windows that were transparent, opaque. Isn't that a contradiction? Shkufim atumim, Rashi says, Rabosenu pershu shkufim lashon re'iyah upsicha v'hashkafa. The shkufim meaning transparent, that you can see it's open and it's transparent. Psuchim mibachutz. And that's how they were outside. Va'atumim opaque mibifnim. Now, the Medrash further expands. Kisha adam bona bayis osa lo chalonos tsoros mibachutz u'rechavos mibifnim. Kedei sheyehei ha'or nichnas mibachutz u'meir mibifnim. So in order to explain what it's talking about here, I can give an example from the old city. They have old buildings. My house is 700 years old. There's not so much outdoor space to make windows. We have one room that has one little window. It doesn't bring in that much light, but in order to maximize the amount of light that can come in from this small window, we carve out into the walls, which are 6 feet deep. We carve out diagonal lines that lead to a much larger opening in the room itself. So what does that do? That allows the rays of light to disperse, and we get the maximum amount of light from the sunshine that shines in. That's what a person would normally do with the windows in his house. Ushlomo bana beis hamikdash v'lo asachein ela asa chalonos saros mibifnim u'rechavos mibachutz. They shone outwards. Why did he do it like this? Because the Beis HaMikdash does not need windows. The Beis HaMikdash is Oro Shel Olam. Kedei sheyehei ha'or yotzei mibifnim, miBeis HaMikdash, umeir lachutz. Shekenu omer bayas labayis chalone shkufim atumim. Maybe we can give the example today of one-way glass. That means on one side it's opaque, you don't see anything, and on the other side it's transparent where you can see through, but that would be on the outside. Lahodiacha shekulo or ve'eno tzarich laora. The Beis HaMikdash does not need any light. It's there to shine its light on the whole world. So if we're to draw a comparison between the Mishkan Mikdash and the Jew, what happens with the windows? What are they all about? How and where do they fit into this picture? In what way is an Oved Hashem supposed to have transparent/opaque windows? Windows being the person's connection to the world and the people outside of himself. I thought about this question. Maybe you can think of some ideas. What immediately came to my mind was striving to be a giver rather than a taker. As Shlomo HaMelech says in Mishlei, V'sonei matanos yichya, discouraging us from taking free gifts. How do Chazal say that Tzaddik says, Shali shelcha v'shelcha shelcha? Perhaps hinting to us there's no such a thing as a free ride. Everything has its price. Remember the discussions about internet? How is it that Google, Gmail, and many other services are free? The warning that ensued from these discussions were like something like this. You think that just because they don't ask you for your money, they're not profiting? They might not be taking your money, but it's much creepier. You are the prophet. They're tracking and mapping your every move and marketing the info and creating algorithms that will eventually control your choices and control you. Okay, my point isn't to criticize all these services. The point is that we have to work hard and make sure that we're in the command. Do everything that they should be in our service and we shouldn't be servicing them. Criticizing, like the internet I said, not allowing it to take over your lives. Everybody knows how that is, that they shouldn't be a servant with their time, giving up who knows amount of time because we just lost ourselves. Certainly, being in control, that's part of shkufim atumim. How about training ourselves not to make the recognition by society a goal for ourselves and a guide for our actions? Chazal encourage us very strongly to run away from kavod, glory and recognition, looking for and living off praise and compliments and recognition. There's a price for that too, for all that flattery. We become dependent on the ratings and the feedback and the public opinions. We water down our actions. We limit ourselves in our horizons. There's a famous quote from the French poet Jean de La Fontaine. It goes, Apprenez que tout flatteur vit aux dépens de celui qui l'écoute. A person who seeks out flattery or the other free services from others, he should know that the flatterer is filling up his pockets at the expense of the flattery. But we might ask, the kavod, the feedback, the compliments, that's what motivates us and empowers us to do what we do and to accomplish. But again, here comes the shkufim atumim. Rather, we should get our strength from drawing from our inner strength. Empower ourselves through our connection to Hashem. We have our names. We spoke about that in Parshas Shemos. Our chelek aloka mimal. Connect to your name and to connect to your neshama. The word, the synonym for neshama is kavod. L'man yizamercha chavod v'lo yidom. It's so much more gratifying for a person to learn to function in this way, to allow the Oro Shel Olam shine forth from within himself, and thus become a beacon of light for others. And how about shkufim atumim? How about developing and deepening our tefillah experience? Spend a little bit more time, especially in these troubled times, accessing and expressing our deepest emotions, concerns, dreams, and hopes in our tefillah. So beautifully expressed in the famous song, the poem composed by Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner Zatzal, Bilvavi Mishkan Evne Lahadar Kvodo. We all know the song. This song, maybe we didn't know, it's a takeoff, inspired by one line from Rav Elazar Azikri, who lived at the time and is buried right next to the Arizal. He composed the Sefer Hasidim and the famous song that we sing at Shalosh Shudas, Yedid Nefesh. This is a line from Rav Elazar Azikri, B'toch libi mishkan evneh lizivo, karban akrivlo nafshi hayechida. To construct a mishkan inside of ourselves and place a mizbeach there, and on the mizbeach to bring our nefesh, our yechida. The Siddur HaShla encourages us when we daven Shmona Esrei Shachol during the week, we should close our eyes and actually accompany the Kohen in our minds in the Chatzer of the Beis Hamikdash as he encircles the mizbeach, the altar. He walks all around, carrying out the avoda that's called Zrikas Hadam. He sprinkles the blood of the Karban Tamid on all four sides of the Mizbeach. That's a study into itself. But what I want to say is the Strikas Hadam, the dam, is the nefesh. Karban takriv lo nafshi hayechida. This is what we refer to in the tefillah right before Modim Ritzeh, the Ishe Yisrael usfilasam tekabel baratzon. That means the Ishe Yisrael getting ready to put forth our nefesh towards Hashem. That's something distinct from the tefillah itself. And we can certainly draw profound and inspiring example. Again, I say the Chayalim who fearlessly move forward in dedication to fight and protect their comrades and Am Yisrael as a whole. We all saw the videos this week of the great nace of the extrication of Louis and Fernando, who was under fire. May these unbelievable acts of Mesiras Nefesh inspire us all to greater heights. And we'll end with the psukim from Shir Hashirim, Apirion Asalo HaMelech Shlomo Me'atzei HaLevanon. Shlomo HaMelech made the Beis HaMikdash. He made it out of the trees from Lebanon. Amud Avasach Chesef Rafida Sozahav Merkavo Argaman. Many elaborate, wealthy materials, silver, gold, purple. Tocho Ratzuf Ahava Mibenos Yushalayim. But the floor of the Beis HaMikdash, and the floor is where the Kedusha is. If you ever have to go to look out to Har HaBayis to Ter Kriya, make sure, or you want to see the Har HaBayis on the Shalosh Regan, look and see if you can see the floor, because that is where the Kedusha is. And what is the floor made out of? Tocho Ratzuf Ahava. It's inlaid. The tiles are Ahava Mibnos Yerushalayim. The love and devotion to Hashem and to His Torah, filled with courage, determination, and Mesiras Nefesh. With the tefillah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings strength and nechama to all the bereaved families, bring refuah to all the injured soldiers and civilians, and bring home the shvuyim, the hostages, safe and sound, and bring a great victory for Am Yisrael that will resign and make Kiddush Hashem throughout the world. We're now in Chodesh Adar. May we be zocha to the fulfillment of the last pasuk of the Haftarah, V'shachanti v'toch b'nei Yisrael, v'lo e'ezov es ami Yisrael, that Hashem dwell among us and that He never, ever forsake us. Amen.